trees. It's a little farming on small scale. And also the vineyards that we'll be seeing now in brief are owned by families who might inherit these wines and vineyards from their ancestors, parents, grandparents, etc. So some people make a living from wine and from apricot production here, but a lot of the owners of these orchards and of the wines just generate some little side income. However, if you're wondering whether these are weekend homes that you see, no, the majority of the houses are owned by someone who lives here all year round. I would say approximately 85 to 90% of the houses owned by the locals, who then either work in agriculture or in tourism. But a lot of them also commute, for there is more job opportunities in the nearby small towns of Krems, that is about 20 miles from here. There is the capital also of the states, roughly 25 miles away from here, and some even drive every day into Vienna, which is about an hour and a half drive from this valley into the city of Vienna.
You can see the vineyards and stuff like that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you got nicely settled on starboard sides, you might want to change direction and look for the next miles out to the left, to port side, because in this section of the valley now, the more scenic villages and sites are on the left, on port side, because it is the northern side of the valley, meaning the vines, the wine terraces that you see from now on, they catch more sunshine. So the better wine locations one finds now on port side. And the charming villages coming up on port side, this is the village of Schwallenbach, a nice church from the 16th century, early 16th century, and remains of a little fortification. Even the church served as fortification. As you can see, it has only small windows and it has thick walls. A church like this was commissioned. People were afraid of the Ottoman troops, of the Turkish troops, which were occupying more and more of Eastern Europe and moving further to the west. So the Emperor Ferdinand was his name. He was already a Habsburg. He commissioned the construction of several churches also here in the valley that could provide shelter, but could also serve as fortification in case of enemy attacks. However, the Ottoman troops actually never made it further than to the city walls of Vienna, so they never reached here. this part of the Wachau Danube Valley.
I know.
Did that do your lunch?
It's gotta be those labor tendencies.
Pretty nice. But look at that.
On the left, a cliff of bare rocks is appearing, which the locals call the Devil's Wall. It looks indeed that a recent earthquake or something similar caused these rocks to collapse, but these crumbled rocks date back already to the Middle Ages, and the locals always came up with the story that it was the devil who tried to build a dam to dam up the Danube River to prevent the Crusaders from sailing towards the Holy Land, but he somehow got interrupted by thunder and lightning, so the unfinished Devil's Wall on the left. And soon after, we pass another charming village with a lot of vineyards. This will be also port side, the village of Spitz coming up.
Right in the shade. No, you're fine. Yeah, very good. Totally on.
I love the sun, but that's too much upstairs.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Well, it wasn't breezy earlier, but now it's coming over that one break, so it's real
Like my cards out there, I didn't even have those.
I guess they try to match it always.
Let's just do this bronze game.
Well, Spitz already on port side, and Spitz is overlooked by a castle ruin. Also, this castle ruin from the 12th century belonged to this Kuhn-Ringer family. It was was one of the lower castles, not a defense castle up on top of the mountain, but rather close to the riverfront, meaning it was another toll and tax collection point. Now it is a ruin that is freely accessible. And in June 2013, when the last high water occurred and flooded Passau and Melk and other villages here, Spitz already had this. It was the only village in the valley that had invested in this high water protection system. And the pictures of the mayor of Spitz standing dry feet behind the wall near the Danube River, these pictures were broadcast all over Austria. And since then, all the other villages speedily also invested in this modern protection. It proved to be safe and good 4 years ago when we had the high water here at the Danube.
That's what everybody else is. What do you think it can get in?
Leaving Spitz behind, we're passing on port side a charming little church, my favorite church in the valley. It's St. Michael's, located around the river bend on port side, right on the waterfront. Another good example of these old fortified churches with the thick walls, which were commissioned also as little fortifications here in the valley. This one dates back to the 15th, well actually turned 16th century, around 1515 it was built and commissioned, dedicated to the Saint Michael. Well, for all the guests who are maybe coming from Ireland or Great Britain and who are not used to fortified churches, who are used to medieval churches of this style, this might not be so special. But here in Austria and also in southern Bavaria and Germany, we're more known for the Baroque churches, the fancy decorated ones that are a bit younger, like we've seen the church in Melk today. So it's hard to find still these old structures from the 14th, 15th, 16th century. So for the Austrians, these old churches are kind of special. And St. Michael's has a unique architectural oddity, because on the ridge of the roofs you will see stone figurines, hares or rabbits, commemorating the high water, during which the locals had to seek shelter on the roof of St. Michael's.
Vineyards.
The wine growing here in the valley actually extends back to the time of the Celts. The Celts were living in village communities already before Christ here in the valley, before the Romans then passed by and used the Danube also as their northern border. The wine of the Celtic tribe has the reputation of more of a vinegar taste, a little alcohol content, and quite sour. So maybe it needed the art of the Romans to improve the wine growing here in the valley. And soon people started to have wine terraces built, as you still see them now, because by the help of the terraces with the dark stones of the granites, the grapes can catch more of the warmth, because these dark stones, they are warming up during the daytime, and then the heat is gently radiated over nighttime. The climate here in this valley, due to these dark granite stones, is a bit milder than in the adjacent areas. There is hardly snow in winter, only a few days of snow here in the valley. Although it has a mild climate that allows the growing of wine and apricot, although we are here in the rather northern part of Austria. The grape varieties to be found here are mainly white wine grapes. Riesling is one of the varieties, also Chardonnay, Grüner Veltliner, as well as the Neuburger grapes. So it's usually a rather crisp, dry white wine that is produced, but some of the vintners go for late harvest wines, so they do not harvest beginning mid-September when everybody's cutting the grapes. They wait a little longer till mid of October, so the grapes have higher sugar content. And some vintners produce also so-called ice wines. For an ice wine, there are very particular conditions necessary. The grapes must be frozen when they're picked. That only happens beginning of December or so. By the time the grapes are, well, like little raisins, they have hardly any liquid. So while they're frozen, they're picked, and while they're frozen, they are crushed. So only a few drops of sweet liquid is in them, and that makes a very sweet dessert wine, the so-called ice wine. But it's of course quite a risky production, so not too many vintners go for that, because you risk that, well, there some disease could catch these grapes, or even some birds could pick them before you have the chance to do so. Ice wines are really a specialty, and not too many countries in the world can produce them. In Germany, there are ice wine producers near the valleys of the Rhine and the Moselle, and also Canada in the last years was cultivating more and more ice wine.
Yeah, but our show.
Shade.